What's up, everybody? How you doing? Going to do a response. I watched a couple videos in the VC on YouTube this morning and ran across Metal Mickey's latest thread, the 123 album challenge. Found it very fascinating and interesting. Decided to do the response to his video, and then I found it very challenging. Only picked out 9 albums, but basically what the idea is, your favorite debut, your favorite sophomore, your favorite third album, and do as many as you can from different bands. So when I began making my list, I discovered that I was picking up thrash albums and death metal albums, black metal albums, and decided, well, I'm not going to do those. I've talked about those albums before. There's so many. And then I was finding it very challenging on which debut, which sophomore, and so forth and so on. So I decided to pick some albums that I normally don't show on this channel. I've talked about a couple of them, of course, but decided, I'll talk about some stuff that some people wouldn't know I'd listen to or I would like, but actually I love these albums. Most of them I grew up with. There is 2 death metal albums because, like I said, I struggled with this. So there's going to be 2 death metal albums in this, but the rest of them are just basically good shit. So, what time is it? How much time? Oh, 2 minutes in. Let's go. Quit fucking around, Steve. Anyway, check out Metal Mickey's video. There's a number of other VC channels that did responses. I'm gonna watch those probably while I'm uploading this. So my one of my favorite sophomore releases is by this band right here, Alice in Chains, Facelift. And I remember in 1990 in particular when this album came out, and I may have talked about this album a little bit before, but basically me and my buddies skipped school and we went to Kansas City to the Clash of the Titans. We had tickets, and it was Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth. And once we got there, a band that opened up for them was this band right here. And I just was totally floored by them. Actually, I may have been a little bit more impressed with this band than the other bands I've seen. And I wish they played more songs, even though I love Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, don't get me wrong. But for some reason, this band really hit me. The music was different. It wasn't your glam, it wasn't your thrash, but it was still heavy. It still had some dark melodies, had some awesome vocals, killer drums, killer bass, killer guitar solos. Fantastic album. It's always been one of my favorites by Alice in Chains, and that's my number 1 for the debut. Number 2 is one, Dream Theater, Images and Words. So this was released in 1992 when I was in high school. Actually, my senior year in high school this came out. And I first heard Pull Me Under. I believe that was on the radio. And I couldn't believe how heavy it was. I loved the vocals, that clean guitar that starts out, that drum beat, and the lyrics just grabbed a hold. And immediately had to get this album. This is my original copy from back in '92. I have a couple of Dream Theater albums. Not the hugest fan of the band, but their first couple albums I really love and enjoy. And this would be my favorite sophomore release album, is by Dream Theater. Fantastic album, fantastic one. So next one is a favorite from, I think 1986 is when this came out. Most people wouldn't know that I like this old classic rock sound and stuff. I believe it was released in '86. But anyway, Boston, Third Stage. I remember when I was a kid I listened to a lot of this type of music. Always loved it. And this album was this was my favorite. I like Cool the Engines. Amanda To Be a Man, A New World. But the guitar solos and the vocals and everything about this album just literally blew me away, and it's still one of my favorite albums to go to every once in a while. I haven't listened to this one in a while. I've never shown it on this channel, but one of these days I'll show some more bands like this. I got Foreigner and Queen and all that kind of stuff that I've never talked about. But that's why I like doing this response. It's giving me a chance to talk about some albums that you probably didn't know I listened to. And Boston is one of them. That's a fantastic album. Fourth, I've talked about this album. 1987, Savatage. This is my favorite Savatage album, and it just so happens to be the fourth album in their catalog, Hall of the Mountain King. So when I first heard this, my buddy played Prelude to Madness, and then Hall of the Mountain King, and I always love the classical stuff. That has a couple. I think it has two different classical pieces in it, but it blew me away. And also, I did hear what is it song called? 24 Hours Ago. It was on a compilation with Megadeth and Slayer and a couple other bands, and so I was already familiar with that song and loved it. But this album, fourth album in their catalog, is definitely my favorite by Savatage, and I absolutely adore Savatage. Obviously, I've talked about them several times. I think the last three videos I've shown a different Savatage album in each one. This next one might come to a surprise to some, but absolutely love Dio's work, especially Holy Diver and that. Different albums, of course they're classics, but 1990, I'd say my favorite Dio album is actually Lock Up the Wolves, and this is my original copy from back then. Always dug that artwork. I don't know what it is about this album that's always struck me, but I know My Eyes is the song I want played at my funeral. It's actually on this album. I know everybody has their funeral songs. Mine so happens to be a Dio track, My Eyes. But I like Lock Up the Wolves. I like that bluesy sound. Isn't that cool? Those old CDs, you can't beat them. But always loved that artwork as well. Bring it out. That whole scene. I've never bought this other than... This is the only copy I've ever owned of this album. I've always wanted a vinyl copy, but I've heard stories that it's missing Why Are They Watching Me, so I never did pick it up. I always like this. But anyway, number 5, the 5th studio album by Dio. Absolute banger. It's my favorite one. Absolute smasher. Next up would be my favorite Led Zeppelin album, Physical Graffiti. Of course, I like all the classic ones, but the 6th studio album is definitely, by Led Zeppelin, is definitely my favorites, because it has tracks called In the Light. That's one of my favorite tracks. Kashmir, Trapped Underfoot, Houses of the Holy, In My Time of Dying. There's just so many tracks on this album. I'm not sure what reissue. I know I bought this a long time ago, but absolute banger. Definitely my favorite Led Zeppelin album. Released in 1975, and actually I first bought, actually I'll show you the story. I don't have my original cassette I bought, but the very first Led Zeppelin album I ever bought was actually this very cassette, and I was looking for the song Kashmir. But I was too stupid. I didn't know the name of the fucking track. I just knew I liked that, the way that riff is and that, and grabbed the self-titled album and then found out it was on this one. So yeah, we're talking about the 6th studio album, Led Zeppelin. Good damn, this is a fucking killer. So death metal. I wanted to stay away from all the bands I usually show. I don't talk about this band much. I have, I think, just about all their albums. I might be missing one or two, but one of my favorite Dying Fetus albums is this one, Reign Supreme. I definitely like the very first album, but something about this album I really freaking dig. I think this one was released in, shit, I didn't even look it up, 2013 on Relapse. But I don't know, there's something about this album. It's just a really good death metal album. Solid, modern death metal album. Dying Fetus, Reign Supreme for the 7th studio albums. Number 8 is this classic right here, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Of course, it's the eighth studio album by this British badass fucking band. And what I've always liked, this is definitely my favorite one, but what I truly like about this album is it was actually released the day I was born, in 1973. March 9th, 1973 to be exact. I've had this on cassette. Don't have it anymore, of course. This is my original CD copy. Not sure when I picked this up. I don't know what any other reissue looks like, but not sure what pressing this is either. But this is a badass album. My favorite tracks on this are just about every freaking one of them. But I say Brain Damage, Eclipse, of course, those two, Time, Breathe In the Air. Man, that's weird because I know my cassette was just called Breathe. Drank too much fucking coffee, as you can tell. But yeah, so at the 8th studio album, one of my favorites, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And then it comes to the final one. Way too much coffee. Fuck, I'm shaking. I'd say, shit, it's another death metal album. But my favorite Vader album is actually the 9th studio album by Vader. I like all their stuff, but when this album came out, it did not leave my CD player. I actually got on CD first. I don't know what it is about this album. This is definitely their best work in my opinion. I like, of course, all their albums, but this is the one I go to the most. I love the artwork to this. This was released in 2011. I believe this is a reissue I picked up when I started building my collection back up. And anyway, welcome to the Morbid Reich. Love how the intro is. The black eye. I am he who feasts on your souls. Your soul. Fuck. I almost want to reshoot this video because I can't fucking talk or read. I'm not going to. You guys will dig it. Anyway, this is a fantastic 9th studio album. It's my favorite by Vader. Anyway, that's my video. I think I might do a thrash one, and I might do a death metal one. The more I think about it as I sit here. Very good thread. Anyway, thanks Metal Mickey for always coming up with some badass idea. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Later.